You've probably seen a lot of the videos we've done on Golf Channel. They're a lot of fun to do. They're very helpful, hopefully, to you. That's why you're here. But we really only get 90 seconds to shoot a piece of content that's going to be helpful for you. Now, a lot of the concepts that we talk about and exercises or drills to play better take longer to describe. So I wanted to take one of those short segments that we did, which was how to build a better backswing, and make it just longer so you could see why exactly I was suggesting that you do that. So first, the premise of the article, which we'll link in the description down below, is that a lot of people in the backswing, if there was one key separator to skill that I see most often in golf lessons, it's the amount that the club face is open or closed in the backswing. I think that's the biggest separator of skill, quite honestly. We talk a lot about how you move around to play better. That's really helpful. But most people make a mistake on how much they twist the shaft open and ultimately how your wrist is bent when you hit. So the worst golfers that come in, the ones who hit the biggest slices, have the most problem with distance on the backswing, tend to open up the club face, or that's where the toe of the club here starts to twist away from the golf ball. So more of the grooves are visible at this point in time, and then continue to do the same thing all the way up to the top. So here you can see how the toe of the club's aimed straight down, and my left wrist is extended. This is the most common problem people have. Now, the left wrist being extended isn't wrong at the top of the swing, but most people do that too much. Then on the downswing, when the best golfers on the downswing are starting to flex their wrist, which is where you curl it or where you'd flex your forearm, that's where the worst golfers, again, make bigger mistakes and continue to extend their wrist, which opens the face up even more, ultimately ending when the shaft's parallel to the ground on the downswing with the club face really open, and it's very challenging not to hit basically a bunker shot with all of your golf clubs this way. So to avoid doing that, the way I suggested to do that in the video differently was at the same point in time on the backswing, when the shaft's parallel to the ground, was just aiming the club face down. That would go a long way to making it more complicated for you to open it too many degrees at the top again and slice. So if you do slice or you struggle with just these high shots that spin too much to the right, that would be a good way to start that. Now, the way to do that isn't something that I've described yet. The way I would do that is to take your left wrist and instead of extending it and turning it, which opens the club face the most, on the backswing I would actually aim my palm towards the sky and flex your wrist. That would close the club face as much as you could, and then continue to do that all the way up to the top. That isn't really how I would play, but that is a nice feel to help you stop slicing. So here's what the worst golfers do, and we'll take a look at the actual ball flight on foresight here. So the open club face the most you can, the most open at the top, and then continue to open it the whole way, and the shot looks something like this. Probably see your buddies hit shots like that. We'll take a look at the data here in a second. But the way you would counteract that will be something totally different. So there's a shot. You can see up on the screen how that one took off. Started to the right, went 114 yards, and spun further to the right. Now my club face to path, which we'll highlight there, is 13 degrees open. That's me hitting this golf ball with the club face angle aimed 13 degrees more to the right than the path I'm swinging on. That's slicing. That's a bunker shot. That's how you would try to hit something very short with a lot of spin. Unfortunately, if you're watching this and you struggle with it, chances are this is how you hit all of your shots. So here is the opposite, and this one will be the flexing of your wrist, turning your left forearm or your lead forearm so that it faces up, and so does the palm of my hand, to close the face as much as I can. And then on the way down, I'm going to try to keep my left wrist exactly the same. Same story that I mentioned before. I'm not trying to actually hit like that, but it is a nice way to learn how to close the face of the path. And check out this shot. That is probably worse than the first one, but the ball flight is tremendously different on that. So we'll take a look at that measurement here, and then we'll hit a normal shot. So if you slice, you can't stop, you don't know how, that's how I'd practice. And I would warm up hitting that one like I did there. So I had the face angle close to the path, almost 17 degrees on that shot versus the 13 open on the previous. So on that one, I hit with the club face angle, aimed 17 degrees more to the left than the swing direction I actually had. It's impossible to slice that way no matter how bad you really hit it unless you catch it right off the hosel. So there's 30 degrees of difference between where I had the club face angle aimed relative to the path and just those two shots. So if you can't stop slicing, you don't know how, that's a really nice way to start building a better backswing. I only hit that 70 yards. I wouldn't try to hit those really hard. I would just control the shot first. So once you can demonstrate that you draw all of those, then you can start swinging faster. Ultimately, your club face will be less open in the backswing. You'll twist the shaft less at the top. You'll have less left wrist extension on the way down and hit better shots. So then start hitting them harder. And if you struggle with still slicing, then go ahead and go right back to those drills again. That shot starts really straight. It's drawing to the left. So if you do hook, you don't really need to follow the same advice. This is really for the slicers. So for help with any part of your golf game, GOLFTEC coaches all over the world can help you with this stuff. Find one near you.